Alright, have we all seen Shang-Chi 50 times by now? At the risk of sounding hyperbolic, that movie was awesome! I'm gonna go watch it again right now! Wait, no, I can't, I have a video to do. Dang it! Well, amidst all the amazing fight sequences, the MCU successfully brought back a Phase 1 villain, but not in the way you expect. Is Abomination a good guy now? What's he doing with Wong? Let's talk today about all the ways Abomination could be involved with the future of the MCU. Let's get started. Oh, and if it wasn't obvious, spoilers! So ever since the final major trailer for Shang-Chi dropped, we knew that Abomination was going to be fighting Wong in some type of fighting tournament. Wow, can you imagine saying that sentence a few years ago? I couldn't. Anyways, we knew the two would be at odds, but the actual Shang-Chi movie did something surprising. It hinted that the two of them were actually allies. The fight itself was an awesome spectacle, showcasing Abomination's brute force as well as a cool Wong moment when the sorcerer makes Abomination literally knock himself out with his own punch, and we think that's probably the end of it. But then later in the locker room or something, Wong mentions how Abomination should have pulled his punches like they discussed. Then he opens a portal to a mysterious location and both of them leave together. What? That immediately opens up a whole wave of questions. We thought it was going to be a simple, oh, Wong is a good guy, Abomination is the bad guy, and their fight was going to be a fun moment. But now it actually has much larger implications for both Abomination and Wong. Why is Wong seemingly training the former villain? Does this mean that Abomination is now a good guy? Okay, maybe I'm reading a tad too much into this. Maybe it's not a situation where Wong and Abomination are working together on a major team-up front. Maybe they just wanted to make some money together. The fight promoter said the winner's cut is huge, and given how frugal we've seen Wong be in the past, especially when it comes to food, I could see a situation where he approaches Abomination and works out a deal for both of them to make some money. Though if that's the case, then it suggests that Abomination is at least free and clear to be out in the open and able to fight in places like this on his own free will, which only opens up more questions. Which brings us to our next big question and a possible future for Abomination. Is he a good guy now? If so, how did he get that way? Last we saw him in the MCU, he was breaking Harlem as he battled the Hulk and was officially locked away for his crimes by the end of it. Are we going to follow the narrative thread that he served his time and wanted to rejoin society after getting his anger under control? I mean, imprisoning supervillains like Abomination seems a little tricky because really, what crimes did Abomination really commit? Oh, that's right, that huge rampage. Well, I think any good lawyer could argue that Emil Blonsky was corrupted by the wonky super soldier serum and wasn't in control of his actions. And if he got them under control like his green counterparts, then shouldn't he be given a second chance? Well, what lawyer would be crazy enough to take that case on? No, not Daredevil. Sorry, Charlie Cox fans. But rather, what if it's someone who actually knows a thing or two about what Blonsky is going through? Yes, I'm talking about She-Hulk. We know the She-Hulk show is coming to Disney+. We know Tatiana Maslany will be playing the titular character, and we know that both Mark Ruffalo and Tim Roth will be involved in some capacity, playing the Hulk and Abomination respectively. Wouldn't it just be great if She-Hulk is the reason that Abomination is a good guy and is able to operate outside again? Picture this, Jennifer Walters is trying to adjust to life as She-Hulk, and she wants to prove that people with the Hulk ability can change, actively do good in the world, and not be controlled by their monstrous impulses. So she could be the one to take Abomination's case and prove to the world that he can be reformed. That would be a truly fascinating setup for a show, don't you think? Okay, but now that Abomination is out in the world, what exactly will he be doing? Well, let's put it this way. He's not gonna get a job at his local pizzeria delivering pizzas, nor is he gonna go back to school and get his degree in philosophy or underwater basket weaving or anything like that. No, now that he's seemingly Abomination forever, he needs to abominate things. Is that a word? I don't think so, but you go ahead and be the one to tell Abomination that. Anyways, if Emil Blonsky was able to get his power-hungry impulses under control, then maybe he can go back to doing what he always wanted to in the first place, to be a soldier. That was kind of his whole reason for existing, and the fact that he was getting older really warped his mind. But now that aging isn't that much of an issue, Abomination is in tip-top fighting shape and is probably eager to get back in action. So what will that look like? Well, one option is the Thunderbolts. There seems to be two major anti-Avengers teams forming in the MCU, and one of them is the Thunderbolts. There are many variations of this team in the comics, but I could see the MCU having Thunderbolt Ross be the one in charge of this one. Because if your name is Thunderbolt Ross, then you gotta lead the Thunderbolts. Blonsky and Ross have a complicated history in the MCU, so it would be nice to revisit that dynamic. Plus, imagine a situation where Ross recruits Abomination for the Thunderbolts, but then Ross is hurt in some way where he's infected with Emil's blood, and then he can finally turn into Red Hulk. Ross was partly responsible for turning Emil into Abomination, so it would only be fair that we see the MCU go full circle and have Blonsky responsible for turning Ross into Red Hulk. But what about the MCU's other super anti-hero team that's forming? Of course, I'm talking about the Dark Avengers. Ever since the Falcon and the Winter Soldier introduced us to the mysterious Valentina, we know big things are in the works for the MCU. Although she didn't say it, she's totally putting together the Dark Avengers, and it seems like currently she's well on her way to recruiting dark counterparts of our beloved main characters. First, we have the crazy Captain America stand-in, John Walker, aka US Agent. Then we have the new Black Widow with Yelena, and there's a ton of rumors that we'll get Norman Osborn in the MCU sooner rather than later, and he could fill the Iron Man role as the villainous Iron Patriot. So then Valentina would need her version of the Hulk, and Abomination would be literally perfect for that. If you recall, Abomination was almost on the Avengers initiative thanks to some meddling by Thunderbolt Ross, so S.H.I.E.L.D. sent in a consultant to annoy Ross so much that he backed out. So now things could come full circle if Abomination finally gets a spot on an Avenger team. Could you just imagine for a second if you saw a spinning group shot but with all these Dark Avengers? I'd lose my mind in excitement. Hey, you know what needs a proper villain? The Hawkeye TV show. This is continuing off the idea that Abomination joins the Dark Avengers. We know that the initial setup for the show is that Valentina has told Yelena that Hawkeye is responsible for Natasha's demise, and now Yelena will seek revenge. Well, come on, we know they're gonna work things out and walk away friends. But after that, I could see Valentina sending a backup plan. So she sends Yelena, and when Yelena decides that Hawkeye isn't that bad, Valentina sends in Abomination to finish the job. So yeah, we basically have a retelling of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, but you know, without all the Marthas. You know what would just be wild? If none of the previous ideas come true and Abomination instead teams up with Nick Fury to take on the Skrulls in Secret Invasion. Would it make sense? Not really, but would it give us a chance to see the stone cold Nick Fury work side by side with Abomination? Yes, and I'm here for that. Okay, here's the quick pitch in case any Secret Invasion writers are watching. Wong is training Abomination to be a good guy when Nick Fury comes calling. You see, Abomination is so ugly and large that no Skrull is able to replicate him, thus making him the only one Fury can actually trust. And then, I don't know, maybe they go on a buddy road trip somewhere? Okay, fine, it's not a fully fleshed out idea yet, but it could be. You know, there was a time in the comics when Abomination worked side by side with the X-Men. One time, the villain was captured by Sentinels and then was set free by the X-Men. Is that tiny plotline enough to make a connection to the X-Men in the MCU? Sure, why not? You see, maybe Abomination spends all this time hating the fact that some CBR voice keeps calling him Abomination. He has feelings too, you know. So, feeling down about who he now is, maybe he falls in line with a group of other special outcasts and then finds acceptance around them. Yep, I can envision Abomination, Emil Blonsky attending Xavier's school, right? Is it goofy? Sure, but does it draw a parallel between these characters? Absolutely, and that's what matters here. I'm just happy overall Wong is getting more of a spotlight. He's one of the most valuable side characters in the MCU. I mean, he was even invited to Tony Stark's wedding. You think Doctor Strange got that invite? Definitely not.